The United States has long been a beacon of hope and a light source of independence and a model of independence for other nations around the world. But how independent are we really when we consume so much of the world's energy? Are we still a land of the free people? Think back to times when you go on family vacations. Think about your parents at the gas pumps, or you yourselves going to and from school and home. Is this not what you think when you see the gas prices? Pursuant to the United States Energy Information Administration, the major sources consumed in the United States are petroleum, oil, natural gas, coal, nuclear energy, and renewable sources. When I was doing my research, I realized how important this topic actually is because, as I said, it affects our vacations, our business trips, and our journeys to and from school and home. Today I wish to share with you where our energy comes from, how we compare to the rest of the world in population size and consumption use, and lastly show projections into the year 2040 for our dependency rates. But first let me begin listing sources of where we get the United States, or where we get the oil. The United States wastes 18.6 million barrels per day of energy, or of oil sources. But we also produce 6.5 million barrels per day, leading us to rank third in 2012. Top nations that import oil to the United States are Canada, Saudi Arabia, and the Persian Gulf region, Mexico, Venezuela, and Russia, although I imagine with everything going on in Russia right now, it's going to be going up more. So who's using all of this energy? How does it compare to the rest of the world's usage? Washington State University did a study where it was discovered that the less developed worlds use less than 0.5% of the world's energy, whereas the more developed nations, like the United States, use 59%. And the United States only accounts for a small portion of the world's population, coming in at 5%. But yet we consume 25% of that energy, the largest out of the entire world. One American can consume as much energy as 2 Japanese people, 6 Mexican people, 13 Chinese people, and as you can tell, the list just continues to grow as you get more into less developed countries. One reason could be from the lack of education and the lack of discipline we have when it comes to leaving our appliances on. One way that we can amend this action is to unplug our seldom used appliances, set our computers to sleep or hibernate, control the thermostats, and many other ideas that are out there. So are we going to continue to rely on other nations for our fuel? According to the Environmental Information Agency, near future projections are pretty bleak, but that's because we have a huge population increase in the world and slow technological advances. The energy that we mostly use is for transportation. We have to keep the trucks on the road to move logistics around the world. We also have industrial uses, residential and commercial, and electrical power. Scientists are researching various ways in which alternative fuels can be utilized. Some types of these fuels that we can expect to see in gas stations near us are biodiesel, electricity, ethanol, hydrogen, natural gas, and propane. This, of course, leads the United States to being less dependent on fossil fuels from other nations. Motor gasoline is projected to drop 1.6 million barrels per day in 2011 to 2040, but diesel fuel is expected to rise in order to keep the trucks on the road from 3.5 million barrels per day to 4.3 million barrels per day. As I've discussed, I've shown you where we get our energy from, who we get it from, where or how we use it, and where we hope to go with it in the near future. Thank you.
If I were to ask you which sporting event was viewed the most in the world every 4 years, how would you respond? Would you say the Olympics or the FIFA World Cup? Some would answer the FIFA World Cup, while others would answer the Olympics. Now take a second and think about that. Now, if I were to ask you which sport originated first, you would definitely say the Olympics. I have always wondered how the Olympics came to be, so I took it upon myself to research just that. I will tell you who started the Olympics and where they began. I will also explain some of the differences between the historic Olympics and the modern ones today. And I will also tell you about some of the Olympic symbols that we know and love. So when did the historic Olympics begin? The Olympics are said to have had their first earliest recorded event in 776 BC. However, they are speculated to have occurred long before that. According to Olympic.org, the Olympic Games originated long ago in ancient Greece. Exactly when the Games were first held and under what circumstances led to their creation is still uncertain. But we do know that the Games occurred due to a direct outgrowth of the values and beliefs of the Greek society. The Greeks idolized physical fitness and mental discipline, and they believed that excellence in those areas honored their favorite god, Zeus. To honor their god Zeus, they held competitions of strength, will, and determination. These competitions grew, and eventually athletes from all over the world came to participate in them. They wanted to win glory and honor for their home countries. However, there is still no single person credited to have began the Olympics. There is a legend linked with the beginning of the Olympics as well. Scholastic.com states one legend about the origin of the Olympic Games and has said that it revolves around the Greek god Zeus. It is said that Zeus once fought his father, Kronos, for control over the world. They battled vigorously on top of a mountaintop that overlooked the valley in southwestern Greece. After Zeus had defeated his father, a temple and an immense statue were built in the valley below to honor him. This valley would soon be called Olympia. People came from all over the world to worship Zeus and to approach him as nearly as possible his great strength. It is believed that these religious festivals eventually led to the famed games of the Olympics. How do the modern Olympics and historic Olympics compare? According to the British Association of Picture Libraries and Agencies, or the BAPLA, the first modern Olympic Games started in 1896 in Athens, Greece. So this year's Olympic Games in Sochi marks the 118th year anniversary of the modern Olympics. This may seem like a long time. However, these 118 years of the modern Olympics pale in comparison to the historic Olympics times that the historic Olympic Games took place. The historic Olympics occurred for nearly 1,200 years. They lasted from 776 BC to 393 AD. In the midst of these 1,200 years, an estimated 320 Olympic Games took place. This is just one fact that makes the modern and historic Olympics different. Another difference between the modern Olympics and the historic ones are some of the events that occurred. In the historic Olympic Games, chariot races used to be one of the most popular events to watch, but in the 21st century, this would seem like a foreign idea. Due to some of the technology today, some of the events would also be impossible for the historic Olympics to have. In the modern Olympics today, they have shooting events. This event would be impossible due to the fact that gunpowder was not invented yet. What are some of the symbols of the Olympics? There are two major symbols that are direct representations of the Olympic Games. These two symbols are the 5 colored rings and the Olympic flame. The 5 rings represent the continents that take part in the Olympics. They represent the continents of North and South America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. They also symbolize the unity of the athletes across the world to participate in the modern Olympic Games. The Olympic flame, however, symbolizes the continuity between the historic and modern Olympic Games. Runners have to carry a burning torch brought from the Temple of Zeus at Olympia, which officially opens the modern Olympic Games. Unless it is absolutely necessary to travel by ship or plane, unless it is necessary for them to travel by ship or plane, the torch is carried overland from Greece by a relay of athletes at the home site of the modern Olympic Games. The torch is used to light the flame of a bigger torch or a cauldron, which burns for the duration of the games. This idea of using the flame to represent continuity between the historic and the modern Olympics was first used at the 1928 Olympic Games. Throughout the duration of my research, I've learned many amazing facts about the Olympics. Firstly, I've learned that the modern Olympics have only lasted 118 years, compared to the 1,200 years of the historic Olympics. I've learned that the competitive nature and society of the Greeks is what ultimately led to the creation of the Olympic Games. I've stated the reason why having shooting events at the historic Olympics would be impossible due to the fact of the invention of gunpowder that had not happened yet. And finally, I've discovered the true meaning of those colored rings and the reason why it would be impossible for someone to run so damn far. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is the creed of the modern Olympics. Pierre de Coubertin once said, "The most important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. Just as the most important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well."